YouTube, welcome to my channel. This is my 1991 Mazda MX5, of which I intend to supercharge over the next few videos and take you through the process, all the trials and error that I'm sure I'll end up going through, because I've never supercharged a car before and I'm not a mechanic. But I figure it might be an interesting thing to document, and maybe if I have any problems along the way, someone might even be able to help me. Here's a little history about my car. I've owned this car for about 12 years. When I bought it, it had 160,000 or so kilometers on the clock. In the 12 years I've owned it, I've turned that from 160 to 390,000 kilometers. So I've used the car and it's been completely reliable and just fantastic fun, like all MX5s are. It's not standard stock, but it's not been completely modified yet. It will be with the supercharger, I guess. But what I have done to it is I've had the engine reconditioned about 4,000 k's ago, and at the same time I had the mechanic fit mega squirt ECU and bigger injectors, so it's pretty much ready to go in respect to fitting the supercharger, which I'll be doing, and then the rest is like tuning it. Other modifications are I rebushed all the suspension arms, and they were IL Motorsport suspension bushes. They're still rubber, but they're about 40% stiffer than stock, because I didn't want, you know, poly bushes. I've had them in cars before and it kind of spoilt some of the fun, made the car a little bit too serious. This one also had BC Racing coilovers on it, but I took those off and I went back to stock, just because, you know, you can't really daily a car like this with stiff suspension and enjoy it as much as, well, I'd like to anyway. But so I went back to stock, and I love it. I really do. It's not as cool as it used to be to look at. As you can see, the ride height is a little bit high, but for me it worked out to be much more enjoyable to drive the car. I'm also getting on a bit in age and the old back couldn't handle it as much. On the engine, it's had, obviously it was reconditioned, but it's also had a slight head shave, nothing major, but they just refreshed it a bit, and I'll show you. Look at here, and that up. Here she is, a 1.6 Mazda MX5 motor. As you can see, it hasn't got a airflow meter anymore because the Mega Squirt is doing all that sort of stuff. It's on a base tune at the moment, so I can drive it around while it's still NA. But when the supercharger goes on, you know, I've got another tune that I can load into the ECU, but relatively standard. I've I've got a performance radiator there, and I've got dual fans. I actually just because it hasn't got air conditioning anymore, the fan was still there, so I wired it up in parallel, so I've got twin fans now. My pride and joy is the extractors, or headers, or whatever you want to call them. Those are 4-into-1, which are quite rare apparently, and really helps scavenge exhaust out. And it's got a sort of a custom exhaust system back to the back of the car, and it sounds pretty good. It's not super loud or obnoxious. So there she is, pre-supercharger, and now I'll show you the supercharger kit. Okay, so here's the supercharger kit. Pretty much everything I need, I think, I hope. They say that it's everything you need to supercharge 1.6, so here's hoping. So basically the kit comprises of several pieces. So this is the pulley bracket, I suppose, plate bracket, and this is what the belt obviously is going to go through, and this is the bracket that will bolt up to that hole right there. This is kind of looking how it will be in the car, if you like, and apparently this is about the trickiest part to do, but I think it should be fine. We'll work it out. You know, if I can't work it out, maybe one of you guys will be able to help me. You've got here this long one here. This goes into, gets bolted to the supercharger. It's the intake out to the other side of the engine. If you can imagine, this is the intake manifold here, coming across the front of the engine into, or out from the supercharger. You also have, this is the actual intake, so the throttle body will be connected to here, and then of course there will be the air filter. So that's basically that. This here is yeah, the main bracket that gets bolted onto the engine, and then that hole there is for the bolt that goes through the supercharger and bolts onto the engine. What else comes with the kit? Oh yeah, this is the throttle cable sort of modification, because this has to go across to the other side of the engine now, because the throttle body will be over by the supercharger. So this apparently is the right length, and will do the job, I'd say. There's also a couple of rubber bolts here that I think they must bolt up to something. I'll find out. The only other thing is this contraption here. This is a drive shaft hoop, and this has to go, this has to be fitted in New Zealand here. The law is that you have to have one of these if you've got a car that's producing, I think it's more than 30 or 40 horsepower over stock. So that's the drive shaft goes through there. This bolts onto the PPF. So I had to get that, really. There was no point not getting it. And just a belt, which here it is. So obviously that's going to be connecting the crank to the supercharger. And this is the supercharger. It's a supercharger out of a 2006 Mini Cooper S. And that's what this kit was based on, fitting one of these to an MX5. So I think it's basically a MP45 unit. It comes out of the R53 Mini Cooper S. Pretty simple really, design wise. I've got all the holes covered up at the moment, obviously. I want to keep as much dirt out as possible. But this bit here, as you can see by the shape, bolts onto here. And this part is actually, and when it's in the car, it's actually upside down, as you see it there. It's a really good condition one. It's second hand, obviously. Cost me 600 bucks New Zealand. There's no play of any sort. The blades are in pretty good condition. There's a couple of little scratches here and there, but I think we should be fine. It's really in good nick. And obviously that's covered up as well. That's where the water pump used to reside on the Mini, but of course we don't need that. So these two bolts here, I think, sorry, these two here bolt onto the intake, which is right there. So yeah, so the plan is to get that kit into that engine bay. I don't know what sort of power I'm going to be getting. Some say around 150 maybe. I'm hoping to get that maybe, because it is a relatively, you know, brand new reconditioned motor. It's only done about 4,000 Ks. In fact, it's nicely bed in now. It's really good now. It's way better than it was for the first couple of thousand. And so I thought I might document it. I hope you might stick around or watch my progress or see all the mistakes I make, and you never know, it might be quite good. And you know, at the end of the day, there might be a nice result. We'll take it to a dyno and see what sort of difference we've got. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the beginning of the build.